Looking, gets it to Bryant. Bryant dribbling, has to put it up with the buzzer. Bounces! Is this the dagger? Up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back to another video here on the Just Ballin' channel / podcast. Today, I'm very excited for this one because ESPN just dropped one of their first mock drafts, basically, of the 2025 collegiate season and for the 2025 NBA draft. And I'm excited for this one because it was written by Jonathan Givony, who is like one of the top draft analysts in the industry. Him and I think his sidekick over there, Jeremy Wu, came up with this. And yeah, we're basically going to react to the 31st round picks. I'm not sure if there's a second round, but we're basically just going to get a feel what ESPN thinks and what they think, maybe what they're hearing around the industry, where some of these guys can go. And I just recently did a 2-round mock draft on this channel where I talked about a bunch of guys for the first time, even in my draft risers and fallers video where we talked about Danny Wolf and Rasheer Fleming and Jeremiah Fears and guys that we really weren't talking about in the beginning of the year. And I remember I did react to an ESPN mock draft a little bit ago, and I'm sure a lot of those names are not there. So I'm excited to get into this today. We may as well hop right into it, but maybe before we get in, if you guys enjoyed the draft content, drop a thumbs up on YouTube, hit that follow button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So yeah, let's get into this. I'm excited to see who they had at number 1, and it is Cooper Flagg. So Washington at number 1, they take Cooper Flagg. There is still, I feel like, some debate. Is it Cooper Flagg? Is it Dylan Harper as the number 1 guy? It seems like at least Givony and ESPN thinks it is Cooper Flagg right now. And I think even for Washington, they could honestly use more of a score-first combo guard just for like what they have right now. But I think they eventually trade away Kyle Kuzma. Yes, you have Keyshawn George as like I think at the end of the day, complimentary piece, but you have something in Bilal Coulibaly, and then you add Cooper Flagg to that mix, and now you have, like, you basically have your forward, your 2 forwards for a long, long time, because what you think Bilal could develop, and I think what Cooper Flagg could just help you out defensively right away, because they have such a bad defense. You watch a Wizard game, the opponent team is probably putting up one of their highest point totals of the year, so adding somebody like Cooper Flagg can help that out right away. He could put the ball in the hoop. He, I think, needs to cut down on some of the turnovers, especially when he's like spinning inside. The 3-point shot has been a little inconsistent, but he is a great playmaker. And I think Washington would be thrilled to add him. They'd finally get that number 1 overall pick. Last year, they get Sarr at number 2. This year, they get Cooper Flagg at number 1. But I'm excited to see what his shot's going to look like at the NBA level, because I think this could make or break what he could be as a prospect going into it. Next up, we have Dylan Harper going to the New Orleans Pelicans. Yeah, that makes sense. If they end up at number 2, I'd be fine with them going Dylan Harper. McCollum has been playing very well as of late. I don't think they're going to get any suitors for CJ, but you never know. Maybe they help facilitate a Jimmy Butler trade and somebody ends up in Miami on the Pelicans. Ingram's a free agent at the end of the year. Zion just came back. They traded all that for DeJounte Murray. This team has a ton of talent, and they're going to be bad this year in a good Western Conference because of all the injuries. I'm sure they're going to play a little bit better in the second half if they don't trade away Brandon Ingram and if Zion is healthy. But Dylan Harper, I think, could be such a fun addition to this team. And I think he could be in the backcourt with DeJounte Murray. Now, I'd get a little bit worried about those 2 guys being ball-dominant guards and neither one of them being like a true pass-first, true playmaking point guard. And those guys like to get their shots, especially DeJounte Murray late in the 4th quarter. But I think you just go best player available. And I think Dylan Harper, at least on what he can do, like other than scoring, is better than who they have going number 3, which is Ace Bailey to the Utah Jazz. Because Ace can rebound, Ace can play a little bit of defense, and Ace can definitely score, but Ace cannot really play make. And I think this is actually it's probably one of the best spots for Ace Bailey. I think Washington, I think Utah could be a good fit. I really wouldn't like Ace Bailey that much in New Orleans or Toronto, but I think somewhere in Utah, he can get a ton of run as a primary scorer. And there's a legitimate chance if he ended up on the Jazz next year, and let's say they traded away Larry Markkinen in the offseason, they could probably, like, Ace could probably average 20 points per game under Will Hardy next year. And I think this is somebody like, yeah, you'd probably like Cooper Flagg. Maybe you'd like Dylan Harper a little bit more because of their weak guard outlook. But I think getting Ace Bailey in Utah would be a ton of fun. And I think this mock so far is pretty much what I would do so far. I would still take Cooper Flagg number 1. He's still my top guy in the draft. Number 2, I would still take Dylan Harper. And number 3, I'd probably still go Ace Bailey. It depends, I guess, what Utah wants to do going forward. They mentioned that scouts will be watching how much the game slows down for Bailey as the season moves on with the shot selection, decision-making, and feel for the game, which is a significant work in progress. He's 18. there's times where he just can't get to the rim and he settles for these very tough shots, which are going to be a lot more difficult at the NBA level. Just defenders are stronger, smarter, longer, and I think that's going to be something he's going to work on. But I think Utah would be a good fit for Ace Bailey under Will Hardy. Next up at 4, we have Toronto going VJ Edgecombe. Okay, so still have VJ going pretty high. Now, Edgecombe kind of reminds me in a way of like the Thompson twins. I think a men and a Soar are definitely better athletes than VJ, but he's not far behind them. And I think I worry about his shot. I thought there was some question marks at Blue High. This year, there's definitely some question marks at Baylor, but he is an unreal playmaker defensively, man. This guy's going to make so many highlight plays. He's got, like they mentioned, his 5.1% steal rate, 4.6 block rate. Like, those are key statistics and metrics that scouts are going to like if you're going to look at him in a more analytical point of view. And he's just got a great feel for the game defensively. And I think what Toronto needs is, I mean, they could use some more scoring. Every team could, but I think for them, they can look to get, I think, a really fun backcourt defensive partner in Edgecombe with Emmanuel Quickly. I would love to watch those two defensively. And then you had RJ at the 3, Barnes at the 4, and Pirtle at the 5. And now we're cooking. If that team can stay healthy, they could maybe, if they do the things right, they could be maybe this year's Houston Rockets or maybe the Orlando Magic or something like that. Now, they don't have the cap space to really pull off like what the Rockets did with Brooks and Van Vliet. And they don't have the high-end pedigree of guys. I think like Paolo. I think Paolo's better than Scotty, but Scotty you could probably say is on par with Franz Wagner in a way. But I think they could definitely be in that talks of becoming like the team that takes a leap next year in the East. Because as much as Detroit can take a leap, it's only behind Cade Cunningham. If Cade goes down, like they're basically screwed, and they're relying a lot on Cade. So I think getting somebody like VJ can kind of complete this team, and they can have a bunch of guys that can score 20 a night, can help defend, can rebound, can pass, and that's what you want to do, and just have like this deep young team with all those guys I mentioned. And I'd even talk about Grady Dick, who could be such a nice spark plug for you off the bench on a playoff roster. You had Anoche Agbaji and some of the other guys they drafted in the second round in 2024. I think the Raptors could definitely be better than Charlotte next year, Detroit next year, Chicago, like even Miami. Like we'll see where some of these teams trend in the offseason. Next up at number 5, we have Charlotte going Kasparas Jakučionis. Interesting fit. It is. Okay, so I'm trying to think like on the board here. Would you prefer a Trey Johnson? Would you prefer another guy that can create his own shot, even though he's been kind of down a little bit over his last few games? But Jakučionis, I mean, I raved about him in my Stock Riser video. He's probably my favorite prospect to watch just in this draft. I think just off the multiple things that he could do at a great level as a freshman because of his experience international play before coming to Illinois. He can handle the rock. He can play off ball. He's a spot up shooter. He has a good mid-range jumper. He can orchestrate the pick and roll. And I think this is what I possibly wanted the Hornets to get last year in like a Reed Shepherd, but Kasparas I think is a much better prospect than what Reed Shepherd was. Maybe not as just like a pure shooter because that was Reed Shepherd's calling card, but Jakučionis who could just, I think has defensive potential, but he can put the ball on the ground. He's got a controllable dribble. He can rebound well. He can pass well. He can shoot well. I think that's what Charlotte can use. So I think he's the best player available, and that's what he has them going. Whoa. Okay, 6. Nolan Traore. Okay, talked about him for going pretty low. I think I may have even had him go to the Nets, or I forgot where in my 2-round mock, but it was not in the lottery. I had him in my stock followers video. All right, so I kind of want to see what they say about this, but NBA teams remain intrigued by his long-term upside, and for good reason. He has a strong mix of playmaking talent, speed, and shot-creating ability for a lead guard. Hey, I mentioned that. Some of his strengths in the previous episode where I talked about the fallers. The exciting flashes have remained amid his struggles, but Traore will need to make a better case for himself to secure early lottery positioning as a developmental talent. His defense decision-making and overall consistency are key areas for improvement. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much, I feel like, what I mentioned as well. And I feel like, I don't know, I don't think he's 6th overall mock draft right now. Like, this is banking on what it could be like at the end of the year, I think. Because I think if there was a mock draft today, man, is he not going that high. I do like him in Brooklyn, though. I do. I like a ton of guys in Brooklyn. I think I'd love Kasparas Jakučionis in Brooklyn. I'd like Igor Demin in Brooklyn. Nolan Traore, I'm cool with going in Brooklyn because there's really nobody ahead of him on the depth chart where he's just going to be like chilling there on the bench and he's going to get a ton of chance to really make a name for himself. A lot of trial and error, and he can and he can really just figure out what he is as a player at the NBA level. But that was kind of shocking. I did not expect to see Traore at number 6. Konka Nipple at number 7. All right. Konka Nipple, the shooting wing at Duke this year, as I feel like Portland could use definitely some more shooting for sure. I expect this team to look a little bit different next year as well. Would I go Concanipo here? I mean, you could think about it. You don't really want to target any of the bigs. I would love them to get like a Colin Murray Boyle somehow in this draft, or a Noah Essengate, but later. 7 would be a little bit too high. But you expect them to want to go wing here. I just think Trey Johnson could be a little bit better of a fit because I'm also a proponent of they should move on from Anthony Simons. But I don't mind the upside of Concanipo. I think I'm learning to like Con a little bit more than Lee McNeely. And then I think you get into that tier of like Ian Jackson as well. Of course, after the draft follower video, Jake Powell had a good game. So maybe he ends up building up some more stock. So I don't know. I think we'll see how Concanipo looks as somebody, not just an off-ball player, what he's going to look like on ball throughout the rest of ACC play. And I think he could be an effective pick-and-roll ball handler. But we'll see over the course of the year. So at number 8, we have the Sacramento Kings going Igor Demon. I don't like this fit. I really don't. They need, I think, a little bit more size or just wings over there in Sacramento. But Igor, I mean, Igor's got the length. He's got the size, but I don't know. He's a little bit stiff. I feel like they could use some athleticism on the wing as well. Trey Johnson's still on the board, so maybe he's a little bit lower on Trey. I mean, Ian Jackson's a really good athlete. They could think about that option. Because, yeah, like the guys maybe like a Jeremiah Fears, Boogie Flan, doesn't really make a lot of sense in Sacramento. They could use, I think, a better backup center from what they've had over the last few years behind Sabonis, but I think taking a backup center at 8 is not the smartest idea to go look at Derek Queen or Kamal Maluach here. So we'll see what they end up doing. They fired Mike Brown. Who knows? De'Aaron Fox may not be on this team during the time of the 2025 draft. But I think Igor's got to play better throughout Big 12 play. It hasn't been off to a good start. Looks very stiff with the ball in his hands because he was a very fun prospect in non-conference play. He looked great. Shot looked there. Decision-making's there. I would say he's closer to like 12 for me than he's closer to 8. Or closer to 5, which they have. So next up, we have Jeremiah Fears going to the Houston Rockets, which I'm all for them taking a point guard. I really am because I just feel like Fred VanVleet's not going to be on this team next year. Amen Thompson doesn't need to be your true point guard. I think he can play 30 minutes a night, 35 minutes a night, playing multiple positions out there. And Fears has been a fun player. I think he needs to work on his left hand finishing. He relies a ton on that right hand. I wonder if anybody can actually figure that out for me, if there's a metric that can back that up. But yeah, I think Fears has cemented himself into that conversation for the lottery and is turning into like one of the best point guard prospects after Dylan Harper. And Dylan Harper's more of like a hybrid guy, like he's a combo guard. I like Jeremiah Fears more than Nolan Traore here, who he has going above him. At number 10, we have San Antonio getting Trey Johnson. I mean, he falls to 10. That is a steal. I think Trey is going to go a little bit higher than that right now. We'll see over SEC play. Very good conference, very good defensive conference if his efficiency could stay where it's at. But San Antonio is going to have multiple first-round picks. They can use some more shooting. And I think Johnson gives you a little bit more upside athletically and just, I think, a higher ceiling on what he could be as an offensive talent over what definitely Keldon Johnson is right now, over Malachi Branham, over Julian Champagnie, and whoever they end up drafting down the line as well. And Stephon Castle as a scorer, yes. I like Castle's defense more than Johnson. I like Castle's defense a ton at UConn. I think Johnson could definitely be that guy because I do worry about his defense, though. But smooth-looking jumper, we'll see. They mentioned teams are curious if Johnson can break out of some of those habits and round out his game, but his sheer scoring talent has contributed to making him a lottery candidate because there are some, I guess, defensive concerns that they mention here. So Detroit at 11, Kaman Maluach. All right, that is an interesting one just because they have Jalen Duren on the roster. They have Isaiah Stewart, and I don't think Jalen Duren as much like is in their future plans as much as maybe their fans or maybe Detroit fans know this, but like the casual fan would think he is because I think there are some issues with him as a defender. Now you're drafting Kaman as a project. I mean, I'm okay with Detroit still taking a project, and I don't mind them taking Kaman here, but I think for them, I would just like to see them take somebody that can help them make the playoffs next year as well. We'll see if they make it this year, but I think Kaman, like there's a chance they don't get their first round pick this year if they end up making the playoffs, but he's incredibly young. He's, I think, raw as an offensive talent. We've seen him splash some shooting ability as well, but we'll see, because I think he could be a great shot blocker in this league. I think he can be a good rebounder. I think he can be a much better defender than what we saw from Jalen Duren over at Memphis. I loved him as a talent, but he's never really taken those steps defensively, so we'll see how he looks. Obviously, it helps playing with a good help defender next to him in Cooper Flagg, which, I mean, he could have that in Ron Holland and Nasor Thompson. Next up at 12, OKC taking Ben Seraph, playing in Germany right now. His numbers have been up and down, at least with his efficiency this year. as they mentioned, yeah, they showcase that it's 27% from three, and he has been turning the ball over a lot, but he has been somebody that is handling the rock over there at Ratio Farm a ton this year. He's playing with Noah Essengay, another prospect that I'm sure we're going to get to. But yeah, I'm cool with them going just kind of this hybrid guard slash wing that can handle the rock, that can get his teammates involved, that can finish at the rim. But we'll see if he's going to increase his value as like a rim finisher over the course of the year, because there I think has been some inconsistencies at time, but I think the size and the ball handling ability, there's really something there. And if OKC likes him, then maybe I like him. But is that a little too similar? Like, he's a different prospect than Nikola Topic, but timeline wise, is it a little different? We'll see. Sometimes I forget they have Nikola Topic. Oh, I hate this. Okay. I don't mean to like hate a pick in a mock draft, because it's a mock draft. Like, the Warriors are here at 13. They may not even be picking 13, and who knows. But Hugo Gonzalez right now to Golden State, why? I got to see what they say about him, because I talked about him in one of my draft followers. I would not take him in the lottery. They say the Warriors certainly could use some wing depth to bolster their rotation, and Gonzalez will be one of those prospects every team in this range studies as a potential buy low candidate. All right, yeah, I did mention his draft stock has fallen a little bit, so you would be buying low. It's safe to say we haven't seen the best of the 18-year-old Spaniard, who has seen inconsistent playing time on one of the deepest, most ambitious teams, Real Madrid in Europe. Still, he has been effective when given minutes against high-level competition, making plays on both ends of the court thanks to his intensity, aggressiveness, and explosiveness. He shows that he can guard multiple positions, drops glimpses of passing, and has plenty of winning qualities. All right, yeah, I know there's a defensive potential there for sure, and I think there is some playmaking, but for what Golden State needs, I don't know, like, make this a big board then. For what Golden State needs, oh my God, no. Oh my God, no. I would hate this pick, because this is somebody that's, I think, going to take some time to develop in the NBA, that needs some more run, that would probably benefit from being in the G League right away, and you have a lot better guys that I think can help them next year. I mean, I like Colin Murray-Boyles. I like Derek Queen, if you wanted to go that route. I like Ian Jackson here a ton. And there's probably some other prospects that we're going to get to that I think just would make a little bit more sense. I like Cam Jones to Golden State more than Hugo Gonzalez. I really do. I know he's a lot older, but I like somebody like that. Rasheer Fleming could be a fun talent there as well. Damn, I don't like Hugo Gonzalez. Even Danny Wolf, I think I'm starting to like more of a prospect. I don't know, though. Maybe I'm hating on Hugo too much, but I just think 13 is high. And then again, I also don't like him to go in Golden State. If he was going to like Washington or Charlotte, and it was at 13 with like their second first rounder, yes, I would like that. Or if he's going to sit like behind guys in Memphis at like pick 25, sure. 13 to Golden State with all the needs they have, I don't like that pick. 14 Spurs going to be McNeely, so they have them getting a ton of shooting in this mock. They got Texas. They got Trey Johnson a little bit earlier. They snagged Liam McNeely out of UConn here, pretty much known for his floor spacing ability. I wonder how he's going to be as a just like finisher around the rim. Like, how is he going to use his strength, his size? Because it's a little wonky, I think, for what you can see him be at the NBA level. And I think you're drafting him more as like a connected piece, a complementary piece. He's shooting 37% from three, and I think he's got good size where I think he'll be fine at the NBA level defensively. We'll see. He won basically in high school with Montverde. He's going to win this year with UConn. We'll see how far they go. They did just lose to who did they just lose to? It was Villanova, which I'm like, all right, they've dropped a couple games as of late. So we do have actually back-to-back picks for the Spurs. And they get Drake Powell at 15. All right, so they have Drake Powell above Ian Jackson. I'd like to see why. This pick is from the Atlanta Hawks. The Spurs could use a big perimeter defender. It might address that with this selection, making Powell an interesting potential fit. Powell's one of the more versatile defenders in this draft class with the frame strength and instincts to cover several positions adequately from the wing. Though that hasn't manifested in steals and blocks, his motor and value are obvious, earning a big role at North Carolina despite his offense needing to work. All right, so they see the value and the potential for his defense. I haven't really seen the explosive plays. I don't question the motor whatsoever. It's definitely there. I mentioned in the last episode or last video that he could be a benefit of staying another year, but that's if like nothing changes throughout the second half of this year. But hey, Hayden Watson averaged like 2 points a game in college and still win in the first round. Like, Bilal Koulibaly didn't average a ton over in France. Numbers aren't everything if a team feels like they're better off in their development system. And maybe that is going to be somebody like Drake Powell in this NBA draft. So the Spurs get Drake Powell and Lee McNeely. That pick is from Chicago. If Chicago loses the 14th pick, the McNeely pick, oh my God, they need a rookie. Oh my God. If they just end up making the play-in tournament, it's a disaster. And then you have the Atlanta pick here, which is from the DeJounte Murray trade. But I'm excited to watch like Ian Jackson, Drake Powell over the course of the year. They got Derek Queen going 16 to the Pacers. Kind of low, but I guess like for what he is as an offensive talent, which I think Command could eventually reach one day. Queen, definitely more polished right now. Played at Montverde with Cooper and McNeely, as well as Asanua. We'll see where he has them going. But yeah, Derek Queen, who would be the backup to Miles Turner, who is a free agent at the end of the year, could look at adding a young prospect whom it can develop behind Pascal Siakam and Miles Turner. Well, how's that working out for Jarris Walker? How's that working out for Jarris Walker so far? But yeah, Queen has been a great freshman this year. He's runs the floor very well for a big. He's not clunky, awkward. He's got solid footwork. Could use a little bit more on it, but I think it's really figuring out what he could be as a rim protector, as just an overall defensive center in this league, because it's going to be different at the NBA. He's going from being maybe the best offensive talent at Maryland to being not top 5 on the Indiana Pacers. And are they going to give him these post touches every night? I'm not really sure. So we'll see about that fit. We have OKC at 17 taking Will Riley. This is from the Miami Heat. This pick is lottery protected, I know. And I think Will Riley could also be somebody that stays another year. Could benefit for that because he's coming off the bench and this Illinois team is really good. But yeah, Riley's got a ton of scoring potential. We saw that in the beginning of the year, and maybe OKC's agent could like kind of give a hint to, or OKC's agent, sorry, like OKC's general manager, Sam Presti, could give like a hint to Will Riley's agent, like, hey, you declare for the draft, we will definitely take you with this Miami first round pick. If we get it, we're going to develop you, and we think you can be a great piece for us in the future because he's got the size, he's got the shooting ability, and just the overall offensive upside. Yeah, where he could be somebody that could be a nice scorer for you. I think he needs to put on some weight, very thin frame. I do wonder, like him, Julio Bethea, Drake Powell, if these guys do declare for the draft, because there'll probably be 1 or 2 shockers that stay. Noah Essengay to the Utah Jazz at 18. I'm fine with that. I think Utah adds some like lanky wings here in Ace Bailey and Noah Essengay in this mock. Someone that's been a very productive scorer over in Marshall Farm this year. They're going to have multiple first-round picks in this draft, and I think you're getting excited about what he could be as a two-way, like stretch, not stretch four, but just overall forward that can run the floor. Because yeah, he has struggled. They mentioned 19% from 3, and we'll see. Yeah, he struggles with the physicality over there in Germany, but I think that's something where he can hit the weight room, hit the strength and conditioning coach a ton, and just be a really good prospect by year 3. And we'll see what they do with Kessler. We'll see what they do with Larry Markkinen in the offseason, but I like Essengay at 18. 19, we got Colin Murray-Boyles going to the Brooklyn Nets. This pick is from the Milwaukee Bucks, which was sent to the Nets in the Mikal Bridges trade. And I like that. I think they could use some defense. I think he could be a good complementary piece. A little undersized to, I think, be a center at the NBA level. And they mentioned that too. There was lack of great positional size might limit his ultimate upside. I think, yeah, you're not really viewing him as like a center in this league, but if he could somehow develop a shot, oh my God, he'd be so good. But I don't think, like if he did have one right now, or if scouts thought he could, he'd be going a lot higher. But I think for the Nets having like all these first round picks, you don't want to take all these projects. And you took Nolan Traore earlier in this mock, who's definitely a little bit more of a project. So I think you can get somebody that can help you right now. Baron Fallon, go to the Atlanta Hawks at 20. All right, this is a weird fit. I like LeBaron here. I think he could be a fun prospect with his playmaking ability, his size, his ability to get rebounds. And he can kind of score at the rim. He can run the pick and roll, but I don't know why, like immediately seeing that fit with Atlanta, I'm getting like Kobe Buffkin 2.0 vibes. Now, obviously they drafted Kobe Buffkin when DeJounte Murray was there, but he's never going to start because you got Trae Young and you got Dyson Daniels. And I feel like they have been a team over the last few years that haven't had the best depth, or at least there's been a lot of injuries to Atlanta Hawks. And I feel like I've seen Garrison Matthews start games and Vic Krejci start some games where it's not impossible for LeBaron to end up starting games, but we'll see if his lack of 3-point shooting would even make sense for Atlanta. I don't know if I love that fit for them. With some other guys on the board. I like, if they move on from Clint Capella, I wouldn't mind like Danny Wolf, Thomas Sorber, this second tier of centers here. Speaking of Danny Wolf, 21 to the Dallas Mavericks, Danny Wolf. Oh yeah, this would be a fun fit. This would, because of his 3-point shooting ability, because of his playmaking ability, he's able to run the floor. In this offense, I would enjoy watching Danny Wolf because he is 7 feet tall. He was the Yale transfer. And I actually love this fit for Dallas. Dallas picking 21 right now is weird because probably won't happen at the end of the year when they end up getting healthy, but they could definitely draft a nice player in the first round here because they'll need it for sure. And I always like wonder for Dallas too, like Kyrie's getting up there in age, even though he's still like an incredible player. I mean, Kyrie, he's not like, he's still young enough as a number 2, young enough, but like he's not like super old yet. But what's life after Kyrie Irving, right? Like who's that next guy next to Luka Doncic, and once Clay retires as well. But Asadua going 22 to the Thunder. I think that's a little low, but maybe not. I don't know, because he hasn't been a great 3-point shooter at Georgia this year. But he's definitely shown potential. 31% from three. Did that go up? I thought like I last saw it at like 29%. But yeah, I think you wonder like what he could be with the ball in his hands, but I think he's somebody that can operate at the post. He could score inside. It's very different going from Georgia to Oklahoma City, but I think he would also be a fun developmental project for them. That is the fourth Montverde guy going in this first round. Adua Tiaro going to Orlando at 23. They need some shooting. They could use some scoring ability. And I guess they like that profile, right? Like getting one of these like scoring wings that are athletic, that can run the floor, that can maybe have a potential chance to be like a good shooter if he can improve. I think there's some other guys that are on the board that I think would be a little bit better for Orlando. Like they whiffed, it looks like on the Jet Howard pick, just like trying to get a better shooter in the room. I don't know if that's like Alex Caravan here, maybe a little high. I think Rasheer Fleming I'd rather have over Adua Tiaro, maybe Asanuo like on a winning team. But I think like even give me Rasheer Fleming on Atlanta with Trae Young throwing him alley-oops. Get me Rasheer Fleming there, please. And Orlando's got back-to-back picks. Ian Jackson. I like this because Ian Jackson has been a good three-point shooter at UNC. He's been more involved in the offense over the last few games. And we'll see how he looks throughout like ACC play. I don't worry about his playmaking. Like I know, yeah, they mentioned like he's a limited playmaker, but hey, you watch like this is why I don't know. Like, I disagree with this a little bit because you watch UNC, it's pretty much all ball dominant stuff from Elliot Cadeau and RJ Davis. And there's not really a chance for Ian Jackson to, I think, excel as a playmaker. Yeah, you'd maybe like him to be a little bit better. Yeah, 100%. I think I'd like a lot of guys to be a little bit better as a playmaker. And 6'4", it's like a tweener size. Like, he's not like a true point guard at 6'4", which would be nice. And 6'4" at the 2. How will that be defensively? I don't know. I think that's a little low for Ian Jackson, though. Alex Caravan going to the Nets at 25. So you get Nolan Traore earlier, then you get Colin Murray-Boyles and Alex Caravan. I think I'd rather just go a higher upside guy with dudes on the board other than Alex Caravan. I think there could be a lot of good names. I like Thomas Sorber from Georgetown here, potentially. I think I would like, if you're going to go like an older player, I'd go Cam Jones. I like Cam Jones over Alex Caravan in this draft, but I think Caravan's probably going to go around this range for what he could be as a shooter just because he's been so reliable and has been like one of the more smarter cutters and slashers at UConn. Boogie Fland going 26 to Memphis. This seems kind of low. And I also don't know if I like Memphis. I mean, I don't know when it's all said and done, or they're going to be able to afford Scottie Pippen Jr. when he's a free agent, but they got John Morant. Boogie Fland is, I believe, 6'2", so he's probably never going to play adjacent to John Morant for most of the times. He's still young. He's still raw as a prospect of kind of figuring out what his decision making is. But for Memphis, I think taking a chance, I trust their scouting department and their evaluation. And if they took Boogie Fland, I'd be on board with that. And he'd get a little time to develop behind a very good point guard in John Morant. 27 Brooklyn going Carter Bryant. All right. So speaking of, I guess, more of a project play, they go to project play, to, I would say, NBA ready guys. And Bryant definitely has some upside. I think his draft stock has dropped a little bit this year at Arizona. And obviously they have some other more exciting guards, at least for college play, like Caleb Love and KJ Lewis. But Bryant, I think, could work on the efficiency a little bit. We'll see what he's going to look like. Not as like a back to the basket guy, and will be a little bit different. Is he going to have the motor at the NBA level? I think, yeah, they mentioned he might require additional time at Arizona to maximize his NBA outlook. Mentioned that as well. He could be a year two guy, elevate that draft stock next year, kind of like Kyle Filipowski was at Duke. And then not even get a lot, like, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know who's going to Boston at 28. Joanne Beringer from Cedevita Olimpia out of Slovenia. Okay. He's averaging 3 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 block. So they must like have found this guy on their Slovenian scouting trip, and they found him, like, fell in love with him. I don't know anything about. I've never heard this guy so far. So hey, first time I'm hearing him. Develop younger talent. Beringer, a relatively inexperienced prospect who is establishing himself in Europe, hasn't offered much box score production. He has earned an important role at Cedevita based on his defensive impact. At 6'10", he's quite agile, and he has the presence covering space on the interior thanks to his length and fluid athleticism that project well long-term in that role. Much of his game is still a work in progress. His offensive impact is minimal, but the upside on the other floor and will keep NBA teams interested. All right, I mean, it's cool to learn about a guy. I mean, for Boston, I'd take Thomas Sorber here out of Georgetown. I just know what he gives you. I mean, I guess you're taking a risk here, and then you have Horford retiring soon. You have KP getting up there in age, and his contract's almost done, and will they be able to afford to re-sign him? You have Luke Cornett. You have Neemias Queta. I mean, you can maybe throw him in there and let him get some run in Maine for the G League team. Not the worst idea, but now I know I got to look into this guy. And maybe he is somebody that could be a defensive beast at the NBA level. Michael Ruzic still going in the first round. All right. Hasn't really done much this year in Spain. They mentioned his size, skill level, and feel for the game. But he's going number 29 here to Utah. Rusic's size, skill level, and feel for the game are intriguing at 18 years old. He possesses outstanding instincts on both ends of the floor and appears to have significant room for growth physically. Okay. Hitting the ground running won't be easy in the ACB, but Ruzic is the type of talent NBA teams will want to monitor for the remainder of the season, which should extend into June. Okay. I mean, yeah, that's fine. I think like right now I would probably take a chance because what is he, 6'10"? He's 18. Apparently he could still grow, what Gavoni is saying. And he could be a floor spacer. And I think that was the intrigue about him preseason. Hasn't got much time to shine. So I'd say like just the potential there. Top 40 pick for sure. Let's see. Number 30, Dig Pate going to the LA Clippers. I love that. I love Dig Pate to the Clippers. I think that'd be a very fun player. I'd like Cam Jones. I think a little bit more who's still on the board. The Pate, I think, could finish at the rim. He's got good defensive potential. And we'll see how much of a scorer he's going to be throughout the rest of the G League season. So that wraps up their first round mock. Their remaining big board guys, Sergio Delaria from ACB as well. All right, another guy I got to kind of get familiar with, Alex Tui over there in Sydney. Cam Jones is there at 33. Ryan Kalkbrenner at 36. Kenny Catchings at 37. Chaz Laner, all right, at 39. Rasheer Fleming at 41. The disrespect. There's Rocco Sikorsky at 44. Tomislav Ivicic over in Illinois at 45, brother of Zvonimir, who's there at 53. We also have Eric Dixon, who's been a beast this year at Nova. But Janai Broom, 48 to Auburn. All right, it seems kind of low. I feel like this is more of a big board than a mock. I don't know. But either way, we only have 59 guys here because the Knicks forfeited their 2025 second from the Brunson signing. So, yeah, that is going to be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy my reaction to ESPN's new mock draft. Definitely learned about some new guys throughout this, so that was pretty cool. If you did enjoy on YouTube, appreciate you dropping a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what you guys think. And then if you're listening on audio, appreciate you dropping a rating and review. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.